Well, the struggle for victims of domestic violence is getting some help from Washington. 8th District Congressman Larry Bucshon delivered the news of new money coming to Vanderbilt County to fight domestic violence. Representative Bucshon joins us now. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate that. We're talking about more than $400,000. How did this come about, and how will this be used to help local women and families?
Well, I think over the last number of years, Congress, along with the administration, and honestly the previous administration, has been working on ideas to try to help with the domestic violence and other issues like drug abuse and those things. And so the grant of almost $410,000 to the local Superior Court to help with domestic violence is something I think that has been a priority of the federal government to assist with. So I think it's a very important issue, of course. And it's more prevalent than you might think, unfortunately.
Right. And unfortunately, I think COVID-19 sometimes we hear is making it worse. Is this going directly to those families?
Well, it'll go to the Superior Court through the Justice Department to help support their efforts in addressing the issue locally.
Got it. All right. I also want to talk to you about some of the stories making headlines today. The president, of course, went to Kenosha, Wisconsin yesterday, a place that's seen peaceful protests, violence, though, and burning after a black man was shot in the back by police. Now, you co-sponsored the House version of Senator Scott's Justice Bill in response to George Floyd's death. But neither that bill nor the Democrats' bill on police reform has seen any movement. What are you doing to further that discussion?
Well, I think the discussion's ongoing. I think it's unfortunate that we're not able to get Senator Scott's bill across the finish line. Look, 80% of what's in Senator Scott's bill is in the House version, the Democrat version in the House. So I'm hopeful we can find common ground. I mean, law enforcement knows that they could use some assistance with training dollars, for example. That has been confirmed by me by talking to local law enforcement. A lot of it is related to financing. So I'm hopeful that we can get some of the ideas in Senator Scott's bill across the finish line. There's an ongoing discussion. It is a little bit partisan at this point, but for the most part, people like me, rank and file members of Congress, want to work on this and want to get something done that will improve our circumstances.
Would you be open to some of the things that are not in your bill that the Democrats are pushing for, like no-knock warrants, things like that? Would you be open to talking about that?
Well, in general, I don't like to tie the hands of law enforcement, or for that matter, our military, when they're serving overseas. So I'd have to take a hard look at that. But in general, I think, one of the things that we need to focus on is training. For example, de-escalation training has been something the law enforcement has told me about, and they just don't have the resources for that. So some of the things that were in the Democrat House version, like qualified immunity and other things that might tie the hands of law enforcement, I generally don't favor, but I think the discussion has been a good one, and I do think we can advance the ball down the field.
Okay, we'll be watching for that for sure. Now, switching to the pandemic, millions of Americans are hurting from the coronavirus pandemic. The CARES Act sent out stimulus checks months ago. Congress, though, has not been able to come up with a second stimulus. What do you want to see done?
Well, I think there's a number of things we need to address. First of all, the Paycheck Protection Program that was in the CARES Act, the authorization for that ran out, I think, on August 8th. We need to extend that. And we need to look at the fact that 85% of the people that took the money from that bill have used it. And they've not been able to reopen in many cases. So they need some more funding. So I think we need to extend the Paycheck Protection Program. And the other thing we need to do is work on making it easier to forgive loans less than $150,000 so small businesses aren't caught up in the federal bureaucracy. We need to address the unemployment situation, and I think the president did that with an executive order, but Congress needs to address that. We need to look at more direct payments to citizens who are still hurting, who haven't been able to get back to work. And then I think we need to look at other ideas to help businesses that fell through the cracks. Like I have Holiday World in my district. They have a lot of seasonal workers, not a lot of full-time workers, but it made them ineligible for the payroll protection program, but not eligible for other help. So all of those things need to be addressed.
Absolutely. And now the president, you talked about some of his executive orders. One of those was a moratorium on evictions. The CDC will be enforcing that through the end of the year. Now, while that gives relief to renters, it doesn't dismiss them from finally having to pay back that rent, and it puts a burden on landlords. Doesn't this signal that Congress needs to act to come up with some kind of assistance for these folks to pay their rent and for landlords to pay their mortgages?
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things that I didn't mention in my previous comments a little bit ago, but that's a critical issue. Right? We have a lot of people out there who are still unemployed and can't pay their rent, and on the other hand, we have people that own their buildings that also aren't getting rent paid to them. So I agree totally that we need to address that situation, and we need to make sure people don't get evicted in a time of need like this when they've lost their job. They just don't need that added stress. And then we need to address the long-term issue is how they either repay that to their landlords or we give them federal assistance to make that happen.
All right, Congressman Bucshon, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. So much more to talk about, but time is running out. But we really appreciate you taking the time today to talk with us a little bit about everything on your mind, as well as that money, more than $400,000 coming to Vanderburgh County to help victims of domestic violence. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.